We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
September 11th, 2001. That day started off like any other day. The previous weeks, the previous days, the previous months preceding that date, September 11th, 2001. People got up, got themselves together, gathered their children, and they went about their daily lives. I myself remember getting in late. I was a DJ at the time, catching a few hours of rest before having to get up and get my daughter together and take her to daycare. My girlfriend at the time, she and I got in the car, strapped the little one in, and proceeded to head to the daycare. We dropped her off and headed back to home and listening to the radio here in DFW. The number one radio show at that time was Skip Murphy and Company, K104. We were listening to the news broadcaster, one Mr. Sam Putney, as he was delivering the news. And when we were about 2 miles away from our home, the sports editor, the sports reporter for K104, one Mr. Chris Arnold, I heard him in the background say, "Someone just flew a plane into the World Trade Tower." My girlfriend and I chuckled a bit because we both had the same image in our head, that someone flew one of those little two-seater prop planes, was not paying attention and lost control and flew into the World Trade. We made jokes the rest of the way home about how blind that pilot must have been, or how idiotic. It was just so incomprehensible. How did you not see those towers? When we went inside, my mother was there, and we told my mother, "Hey, turn on the news. Somebody just flew one of these little planes into the World Trade." And my mother grabbed the remote control, turned it on Channel 8 News, and the second that we saw the smoke coming out of one of those towers, we saw the plane hit the second tower. And we all just stood there, shocked, because now we see the damage of the first plane that hit, and we realize somebody flew a commercial airliner into the World Trade. And as we are sitting there and we are watching it, and news reports are coming in, and there is mass panic in the city of New York, well, the people across this nation had a mass panic too, because we could not process and fully comprehend exactly what was going on. We were in shock. We were just asking what, how, why. And 10 to 15 minutes after that, a news break comes in. A news scroll comes on the bottom of the screen. A plane just hit the Pentagon. And it is at that moment my brain kicks in. Oh shit, we are under attack. They are flying planes into federal buildings. They are attacking this country. And my girlfriend at the time grabs the sleeve of my shirt and she says, "Babe, they are attacking federal buildings." And looking into her eyes, that's when my realization kicks in. My daughter's daycare is in a federal building in downtown Dallas. I don't think since then I have ever driven that fast. It usually takes about 15 to 20 minutes to get from where we live to my daughter's daycare. That day, it took me 8 minutes. I was absolutely terrified. To that building's credit, by the time we got there, the United States Marine Corps had that building on full lockdown. You had to go through several layers of identifying yourself to get onto property, into the building, and at the daycare. We got my daughter. We drove back home. I remember the rest of that day. We were in my mother's room, my girlfriend and I, and my daughter. I held my daughter and my girlfriend very close to me. My mother was in tears, understandably so, as the news came across about the plane that went down in Pennsylvania. The brave men on that plane, they called their loved ones, letting them know that they were going to attempt to take the plane back. And as we all know how that story ended, they failed in doing so. But they succeeded very much in not being a dual victim. Yes, the people aboard that plane lost their lives, but they were not going to be the dual victim in taking several innocents out with them on the ground. They were not going to be used as part of a terroristic propaganda image of that plane striking the Capitol, because yes, that plane was headed to DC. They wanted the image of that plane going into a significant United States government structure as propaganda, because that's how terrorists work. But those brave people aboard that plane would not let that happen. They knew their life was already forfeit, and they refused to be double victims. And to them, I salute. I salute all those first responders, police, firefighters, paramedics, that all risked their lives going into buildings that were crumbling under intense heat and the sheer weight caused by 2 commercial airliners. As many others, understandably so, ran from that chaos, those first responders did their duty and ran towards it, many of them not surviving the collapse of those towers. After that, I remember the government giving the order for all planes to be grounded immediately, regardless, all planes on the ground. I remember going outside sometime after, and I never noticed how busy the sky was until it wasn't. I never noticed how much of the background noise of our life are those planes flying overhead. I never noticed how often or frequently those jet stream lines in the sky are caused by those same planes until there were none there. Our lives were changed and impacted forever. I remember for the days, weeks, and months after that, the greatest thing to come out of that incident was this. I mentioned the newscaster on K104, Sam Putney, and in news articles that were racially depicted, racially motivated, racially based, he would always repeat the same line. There is only one race, the human race. And for a long time after 9/11, we remembered that. There wasn't a black American, a white American, a Latino American. There were just Americans, all unified in pain, heartache, fear, and healing. People hugged their loved ones a little bit tighter. They got to know their neighbors a little bit better. And for a while, after 9/11, we all became one. We all became one race, the human race. We mourned the loss of those that were taken from us in acts of terror. We stood huddled in love and healing and united against the threat of terrorist attacks. 9/11 was one of our lowest moments, but from man to man, person to person, was one of our most unifying. 9/11 to me will always stand out as a day of many mixed emotions. But most of all, I have to say that the slogan, "Never Forget," will always resonate with me the strongest, because I never will. I remember all those emotions when dealing with people, when facing danger, when trying to overcome obstacles. I just wish all of us would. I wish all of us would remember that the other 364 days of the year, that we are one nation under God and indivisible. Show that love, show that compassion for your fellow man, and I promise you, this nation will be, once again, great.